As you know, when we opened the museum, before we opened the museum, when we started the museum, we didn't have the space yet. I joined, I believe, as a fourth team member right after we licensed or leased the building on 23rd Street, which is now our poster house home.
Welcome to Kudos AM PM, the podcast exploring the future and impact of design innovation at the intersection of business, art, and technology. I'm your host, John Kudos. Today, I'm so excited to welcome one of my guests and friend, Ola Baldych. Ola, welcome to the AM PM podcast.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here.
It's funny because I feel like I've known you forever. Uh, I have a relationship with the poster house where you have been working at for many years. For those who don't know who you are, can you actually say a few things about yourself?
Of course, I'm Ola Baldych. For the purpose of the podcast and the way that we know each other, I'm a designer. I currently work at Poster House. I'm chairing the Department of Design and Exhibits and oversee the works of both the design teams with all of the communication, graphic designs, marketing designs, and then also another part of my team is responsible for exhibition design and installations. And yeah, we've met through Poster House, and yes, it's been a solid 7 years now.
I thought it's only been 5 years, but okay.
It's been longer than that.
Yeah. You have this mysterious background. Are you at work? Are you at home? Are you working from home?
I actually have been always working from home while at Poster House, even before pandemic. As you know, when we opened the museum, before we opened the museum, when we started the museum, we didn't have the space yet. I joined, I believe, as a fourth team member right after we licensed or leased the building on 23rd Street, which is now our poster house home. And we were just about to get ready for renovation. Like the plans started coming through, architectural plans started coming through. I joined the team, and then a few months later, we broke the walls and started the renovation. So there was really no space per se to work out of. So we all kind of worked a little bit in different coffee shops at home. At that point, I lived uptown Manhattan in Washington Heights, just a straight shot on Train 1. But I was coming to Poster House to see how the space changes, and for some installation, we ran a couple of projects. One of them was had poster gossip. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like a vinyl takeover of the windows to kind of cover up what was happening behind the facade as we were renovating. But yeah, and I continued to work remotely. What I've learned about myself over that time is that I'm actually much more efficient when I'm not distracted by too much buzz going on. And then pandemic happened and everybody became familiar with the concept of working remotely. And I feel like the silver lining of it become that people were much more relaxed with picking up the call on a video call, or just, nobody texted you, hey, can I call you? People just started calling each other, and it was like, fine. My team is also remote for most part, with the exception of the team that is taking care of installation. Obviously, we need to be there in person. But yeah, so I've been working remotely for the last 7 years.
It's funny. I think I actually really enjoy working from home myself. And for a while, I was really worried about letting go our office space a few years ago. I mean, in the middle of COVID, I think a lot of companies did that. But I learned the same thing. I think there's productivity that comes with that flexibility that you have, that you don't have to be there all the time, and In fact, with how we do things nowadays, everything can be done digitally anyway. So really enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
Now, I mean, this may actually predate your time at Poster House, because I remember being an enthusiastic designer showing up at the old TechSurf building. I know the TechSurf building I think at that time it was empty, a new lease and everything. So Poster House were coming in. And there was that exhibition with the Post-Nobills. I think it's made out of triangle structures yeah. So it
Yes.
was really interesting for me to walk into that space and just to see how everything started to become a new museum.
That's right. That happened. That was the first year when I joined, and that exhibition was already sort of pre-planned. It was curated by Angelina, who is our brilliant chief curator at Poster House. And the idea behind it was to show posters of places that used to be part of New York, but since disappeared, like so many different things. And it was kind of like a little bit of a homage to TechSurf itself, because we were taking over the space that was so recognized by so many people in the city. It was the Apple Store before the Apple Store. That's where you went to fix your MacBook,
Yeah.
So we wanted to embrace the fact that we were taking over that space, and created this kind of like downtown to uptown walkthrough along the different locations that no longer are those locations. It was actually a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah.
And the structures, that's right, they were just like those green sort of wheat pasting walls that you see all over the
It's
city
like the
anyways,
construction
yeah.
wall you see all over the city. Yeah. So I love the fact that you can just kind of pop a poster exhibit anywhere, right?
For sure. And that space at that point was just an empty TechSurf space. It was right before the renovation of of that space in the building. But how did you just see it and kind of like walked by? Like, how did you end up coming
Well,
through?
I'm tuned in to I guess the design community, right? So I think at the TDC there was some sort of announcement about the event, and I was really
Nice.
excited about it, and I just thought I had to show up for that. But yeah, I think that may have been 7 years ago, right? Before any of the planning actually happened. So now, I think your official title is Director of Design at Poster House. Can you talk a little bit about
It's
what that means?
Yeah, I can. It's director of design and exhibits, and I think that really sort of encapsulates the both teams that are part of the larger team. So design, I think it's just such a broad spectrum of anything that is really anything that you see at the museum, whether it's printed in some form digital, any out-of-home advertisement, any installations, any exhibitions, pamphlets for exhibitions, product in their store that is branded. All of that is part of what my team does. I remember there are a couple of things that are not done by my team, but they are still falling within the house, is the stuff that you actually created for us. And they include our photo booth that everybody loves.
Oh God, yes.
And also our big poster wall that, we still, I don't know if you know, but we still have the little button that kind of you can press to change things.
Uh-huh.
I have not seen people using it. I think we really hidden that Easter egg very, very well.
Yes.
But it's there. I play with this all the time. And of course, the poster machine as well. If we were to pick up something like that again, we would probably work closer together on that.
Yeah, the Easter egg
But
was
any,
always a point of conversation, even in the brainstorming stage. But I take pride in when I show people around. There's like, you see this button, you can press it, and it changes on the screen. But I think it's always
Designers know
fun,
about it.
especially like
Yeah.
having to source that old elevator button. It was like, how do you get this? How do you hack this? It was fun.
Where did you find it?
A bunch of eBay research. Even the phone booth and the lower gallery, right? The phone booths were it was really hard to find. I think like one of them came up from eBay, another one from an antique shop somewhere.
I think we're updating the software on those right now. But I know that some of my designer friends, they do know about the button. They love it. And I did hear a lot about the kind of CMYK plates that are movable. People just love to touch things like that. Some things can be digital, but there's still like some sort of fascination with like this touching experience, and that includes the mural in the kids area as well. And it's usually occupied and interacted with by adults, which is just wonderful. Yeah. So that kids area turned into like an actual hub for grown-ups to just kind of have a little bit of hands-on
I
moment.
mean, why can't we have fun? It's not like it's a place where you just drop your kids off. I mean, I think I
Oh,
think
I
every
agree.
museum that I've been to, whenever there's a wheel I can rotate, the buttons I can press, I will be the first one to do it. It's just fun.
There you go. Young at heart.
Yeah, so essentially your role is to direct anything that has design on it, right? In whatever form. I think what's I don't know if this is unusual with museums, but you acting as the director of design or director of exhibitions, you actually get to design the exhibit like twice a year.
Yes. Or more. That depends, on a year. Yeah, I'm still a hands-on designer. There is definitely, it's a different balance these days. It's different from when I first started with Poster House. I was very, very heavily hands-on. There is definitely a lot more sort of administrative experience, strategizing, sort of thinking a little bit about the growth and expansion of the department itself, but also how it affects the museum at large. Really thinking about efficiencies, like the kind of studio stuff. But there is definitely a lot of joy from the hands-on design. The way that we have it structured is really to be able to jump on any project at any time. So I might find myself designing a complex exhibition or producing it when we bring guest exhibition designers. And then I might find myself, creating a sign for the day of event that we forgot about. So it's like whatever is needed. We look for ways to make sure that we support each other. But definitely exhibition design is one of the most enjoyable projects. I love large and complex sort of scale projects to not only navigate, but then to play with and really design and think through. And what's beautiful about it is that it's built so quickly, and you can see that, result of what you dreamed up, what you sketched, developed, and what you worked on with like really, really solid craft-oriented teams to make it look the way it does. And I have to say, our team is just it's just a group of really dedicated, wonderful people that I absolutely love to work with, and we do really good work together.
Yeah.
It's joy to see. It's joy
Yeah.
to see
I,
it
I
when it
think
actually happens.
what you said earlier about being hands-on, right? I can only compare my experience working with Poster House with another exhibit at the National Building Museum many years ago when I was a very young designer, in that they actually have an in-house fabrication shop, right, where they're actually building. I mean, it makes sense, right? National Building Museum said they should be building things in-house. Uh, but I think at Poster House, it's like, to me, it's what makes the team very different, because you're actually able to sort of ideate, prototype things on the fly, right? You work with the designer, or I guess you would lead the design process yourself with some of these exhibits, and you get to experiment with what's possible. I think that's really fun.
It is. And as you mentioned, so our usual schedule, we try to kind of split it. So I would design exhibition for a season, and then the following season we would have a guest exhibition designers, like we did with Made in Japan and the Black Panther Party exhibitions. And what's great about it is that I get to pique your brain, and I get to see how you see the space, how you experience, how you think about it. It's very enjoyable for me. It's super interesting to see what another person can come and kind of pick from the venue, from the different angles that each space kind of carries. So it's a lot of fun. You kind of start seeing and borrowing some ideas as you go. We definitely did that, and I feel like some of the elements that you guys brought to the table, we've reused them over and over again because it was just really solid, beautiful design. Like the vitrines.
Very accessible, as they say.
They were very accessible, but also just really beautiful design, and just really well done and comfortable for people.
Yeah.
You know, like the best sort of compliment that sometimes you can get is that nobody complains about legibility of something or the display of something. You know, people don't think about it until it's uncomfortable, and that's when it becomes
Right.
visible.
No news is good news, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially if you ask them that question. Yeah.
Now, I want to maybe expand on that a little bit, this idea of accessibility in a museum space, right? Because I feel like Poster House really takes a different stance on this. Can you talk a little bit about, why, at least, from my experience working with you guys, there's a lot of conversations around how to make things more accessible.
Yes, I can talk about it, but I'm curious to also hear what's different about our approach because, if this is what I know, and that's what we've been talking about, like pretty much from the beginning. Our yearly conversations were really about accessibility of the text that we present at the museum. So Angelina and I were always talking about, like, if the text that is on the wall or on the label, is it then digestible? Do you need PhD to understand what the heck is going on in those labels? Like, what we are talking about? And our principle was always to just really talk as easily as possible. So there is just no barrier for people to understand it, especially like we all have different cognitive abilities. People come from different parts of the world. The language might not be the first language, the English language. So like, how do you make that just something that people can enjoy and not really overthink whether they understand or not? And then providing different levels of sort of the text, because we also, again, we all read differently. I'm the person who will start the magazine from the back. It's just intuitive for me. I will not read until I read. So there was always a lot of attention about, or intention about sort of accessibility of that text, that it's really digestible. And then as we've grown and changed, then we started implementing different levels of information. So, you have the opening text, you have much more details, labels, but you also have pull quotes that can maybe indicate some sort of learning and pull you in different places, kind of can navigate you as a visual element, kind of drafting you or walking you through the space. And then early on, just by the fact that we also are the neighbor to the local low vision and blind community, it was always part of the conversation as well. Like, how can we engage with the community? Can we offer something that can be enjoyable for that community, especially because they're our neighbors?
Yeah.
So we've engaged in all kinds of different experimentation, and some of this was not easily available. That's how you actually learn how inaccessible a lot of experiences are. And we started really talking a little bit more about it. Eventually, we hired an accessibility coordinator. We've done a lot of web improvement, just working with you, even, so you probably know that side of it even in more detail. But just really thinking about, like, simple improvements that can really make that experience easier for people. And now in plans, we have a little bit of a idea about bringing tactile objects into the exhibition space, especially when we show 2D objects. Posters are flat, usually framed. So we're looking for ways to engage in that experimentation a little bit more with the upcoming exhibition cycle. We're going to show Boris Buchan beautiful, beautiful, stunning posters, a lot of texture, visual dimensionality, and we're looking for ways to bring it into tactile objects. So we're going to do some swell forms. We are actually stitching some of the posters into something that can be really touchable. So I'm curious to see how we do with that, and how bring some enjoyment and being able to experiment with those posters.
So one of the things that I think is to me it feels very different is the fact that you really engage the community, right? So the fact that Poster House is a neighbor to the society. What is it called? Society of the Blind.
Low.
Okay. Yeah.
I have to look at it, but it's low vision and blind
Yeah.
community. There is a center right on
And
23rd Street.
I think that's actually maybe the best way to stress test the ideas, all the implementations, and it only gets better over time. But you actually have real people you're talking to, and you're getting feedback from. So I thought that's special. It's different.
Thank you. I'll pass it along. I'm sure our teams will be happy to hear this.
Yes. All right. So the Poster House is celebrating the 5th year anniversary.
Yes, so we opened 5 years ago. So we've been working a little bit longer, and part of that work was also, preparing for the opening, and then the renovation that I've mentioned. And then we opened in 2019, and then about 6 months later, we closed because pandemic happened.
I remember that moment.
So first couple of years of our sort of public existence was fully virtual, and was a really interesting experience. And we've done some other things along the ways while on lockdown. But yes, we are celebrating 5 years, and it's just amazing to see how the institutions changed and grow. Maybe not change, just I think grow up a little bit, just looking back at those early days, and now how the team is so much bigger than what we were originally. And we do so much more. It's just really fascinating to see it. But we celebrate our 5th anniversary with a block party that we are throwing in July. So July 13, Saturday, we're going to take over a block outside of Poster House, and we're going to party.
Wow. It's the block party, right? I think you guys had one 2 years ago. And then there's another
Literally.
one. So yeah, it's a fun event. I feel like everybody should come. But this is bigger than ever, right? This year.
It is. It is. It is really big, and we are engaging with a lot of different organizations and neighbors to come in and participate. And just to spice it up even more, it's also a part of the West Side Fest that is happening on the West Side. Poster House is a part of a larger network of cultural institutions on the West Side called West Side Cultural Network. It was actually kind of formulated during the pandemic. And once we were going out of it, there was this, and I think maybe like even our CMYK council had some part in those conversations, in addition to really thinking about how to engage with the neighborhood and throwing a block party. But Salvador Munoz, who is our director of programs and outreach, threw an idea about doing a festival, and all 20 institutions that are participating in the network said yes to it. And last year, we had our inaugural festival that happened in September. And 7 months later, we will be doing this again in July. So July 12th through 14th, we're throwing not 1 day, but 3-day festival on the West Side and it's really great. It's just really big and small institutions on the West Side coming together. And you're looking at Cara and Whitney, Highline, The Shed, the Rubin Museum is participating. You have Chelsea Factory, you have the kitchen, the West Beth. So it's really a lot of organizations coming together and kind of building something that brings a lot of people through. So the offering is robust. There's going to be a lot of open doors and free admissions and some special events. And the Poster House is participating through the block party. So we will be partying.
I'll be there. Yeah, I mean,
It's gonna be fun.
it
It's
sounds really exciting.
I went to Poster House's website and there was one job open for a designer. It's like, that's my job.
So I'm picking up on just going for it, having the guts to go for it, and actually being relentless, right?
But they did not hire me for my degree. They hired me specifically because I broke into a car to get the bass out while we were on tour.